Hey everybody. This third item is a discussion item for um, regarding the panel's sort of rules of procedure as it's related to procedure. While we have invited members of the community to listen in, we won't be taking testimony or comments, but they're welcome to listen. Um, so the discussion is about reconsideration of panel decisions. Um, the rules of procedure that govern how the panel operates do not include reconsiderations. Until recently, we have not had a request to do so. And I wanted to talk about some of the elements that the panel would need to consider, and then sort of have a brief discussion about the direction. So the DAP is an advisory panel. We are governed by open meetings rules, but there is no requirement that the panel have a procedure to reconsider votes that the panel has taken. So as we move forward with the discussion, one option is for the panel to decide that, as a general matter, the panel will not reconsider votes. The panel is advisory. The panel makes recommendations as to the number of design excellence points at the time of site plan, takes sort of a straw vote at sketch plan, but I think the focus would really be on the site plan vote, which is sort of the final vote. This came about as the result of the one of the site plan items, 4824 Edgemore, that the panel reviewed in June, and there were members of the community that were not on the call. That particular project, was at the panel a total of 4 times, and the members of the community had participated in the first 3, but not in the fourth. And there was a request to essentially allow folks to present their case to the panel. And I thought that, to be sort of fair, there wouldn't be any point to allowing folks to present views on a case where the panel voted decisively in the affirmative to recommend, I think, 15 points, and voted also not to see it again. That there wouldn't be any point for those folks coming back to the panel if the panel wasn't going to reconsider the vote. So the planning board has, they're a very different animal, obviously, and they have, defined procedures as to who can request a reconsideration and the grounds and the timing. And so, if the panel decided that the idea of reconsidering a site plan vote was something that they wanted to do, there would be questions about, who could make such a request, on what grounds, how long would folks have to submit the request, and what grounds would be acceptable, how the how the reconsideration itself would work in terms of the hearing. The way the planning board does it is that folks submit a request, and then the planning board takes a vote, or is provided the opportunity to move for reconsideration. And if there's no motion to reconsider, then the request is denied. And if there is a motion and a majority of the folks who voted in the majority on the original case vote to reconsider, then a reconsideration is scheduled. So, having said all of that, what's the panel's thoughts on sort of the general concept of reconsidering site plan votes?
Elza, this is Damon. Excuse me. My initial thoughts here, just kind of thinking out loud, is that we are an advisory body to the planning board. Our recommendations, our votes are not final. So I guess my current thinking on this would be to not reconsider items unless it progresses to the planning board, and the planning board specifically requests or remands something back to us and requests our advice or our recommendations on something again. That's kind of my thinking. I mean, for this particular, and I know we're talking in general, but for this particular project, the neighbors or the community associations that are requesting this, were they not properly notified of that fourth hearing or fourth meeting of the DAB?
So the only noticing, so the panel does not have a sort of noticing requirement like the board does for regulatory items. The agenda and application materials are posted online the week before, but we don't have a mechanism for notifying folks. So folks either, they would basically need to look on the website and or discuss it with a staff member.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Damon said. Just as an aside, has this planning board remanded it back to the panel? That last case?
No. No, in fact, in that case, they haven't even submitted the application. I think they're still working on. They haven't submitted the application yet. But no, to date, the planning board has not remanded anything. As Damon said, the panels, you serve an advisory function, and staff is not obligated to follow your recommendation. We certainly post your recommendation. All of the discussions are recorded, either audio when we were in person and video now. But it is when staff makes its recommendation, we take the panel recommendation under advisement. We include it for reference. I think generally, over the last couple of years, we have included the panel's recommendations as conditions of approval, but we are not bound to accept the recommendations, and it's ultimately the planning board who will make the determination as to the number of public benefit points that are awarded to a projected site plan.
Well, I do think that, again, we have an example. Through 3 meetings, we did have significant input, very effective input from the adjacent residents. And I think those were bearing on our mind very heavily at the 4th meeting. I don't think there was anything that happened at the 4th meeting other than saying that there was an improvement in the design to a point where we felt we could probably make a recommendation, ultimately to be decided by the Planning Commission. I personally am afraid of getting into a automatic remanding for reconsideration for any project for any reason.
I mean, it's possible. So I think, if were we to update the rules of procedure, we could certainly put parameters on the timing and the number. So I think that's something that could potentially address that. But other panel members?
Elsa, what I'm hearing is, are you trying to say that you're gonna remove the voting from sketch plan and only implement it in site plan?
No, it's that so at sketch plan, it's really a straw vote. The vote that the panel actually takes is at site plan, and it is for the recommendation for the number of public benefit points. So if it's at concept plan, then the comments are just provided. If it's at sketch plan, the panel takes a preliminary or straw vote to say that it's on course, but because that vote is sort of more general in nature, and site plan is really where the point recommendation comes. I was framing it, and in this case, it's a site plan, but I was framing it as just limiting the reconsideration to site plan votes.
But this applicant is requesting sketch plan with reconsideration. I mean, the neighbor. I'm sorry.
So it would be, for at the June meeting, the panel took a vote for site plan review to recommend, I think the majority recommended 15 design excellent points, and decided that the panel did not want to see the project again. So in the particular case, the request would be to, for the panel to sort of revisit the project again. The applicant would be there, and folks from the neighboring community could make their case, and that if the panel wanted to change their votes, there would be an opportunity to do so.
So the community has an opportunity to weigh in again once it goes before the Planning Commission, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, and we've encouraged them to reach out to staff to influence the staff recommendation, and then certainly at the planning board, anybody can submit a written testimony and can testify, and really any sort of binding condition of approval that would require a change in the design would need to come from the planning board in any event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as the Bethesda area representative, I have sympathy for what the neighborhood thinks, the residents think, but I also can understand the comment that I don't know that it would change our minds that much. I do, however, think that as a site plan review, that project was really weak in terms of what it was doing compared to other projects that we've seen. And that's just an editorial comment on my part. It's part of the reason I only voted for 10 points.
Yeah,
This is Damon again, just to chime in. I think maybe the better practice here, and Elza, you and Stephanie are already doing a fantastic job of this, but just to ensure for all future projects that the lead reviewer on the project is making sure that all interested parties are aware of any kind of upcoming meeting or public hearing. Again, I think you guys generally do a very good job of that. Maybe this one may have slipped through the cracks or something because of the COVID situation. But maybe that's probably the better practice moving forward.
I just wonder, as a panel, how would we judge differently? We do another round of evaluation. That's my question for that project. I think we gave it all, pretty much. It's a difficult project and site.
Any other thoughts or discussions? What I'm hearing is that certainly the panel's not interested in doing reconsiderations, and Damon recommended sort of improving the way that we do notification, and we can certainly work on that. But I'm not hearing any interest from the panel in reconsiderations. Carl, you have your hand up?
Yeah, this is a slippery slope. Come on. We're supposed to be evaluating architecture and conformance to standards, etc. Many of the community concerns and worries, fears, which are totally justified, have nothing to do with the architecture. They have to do with, I don't want that building so close to my building, and that's not our job. Our job is not to say, I'm sorry, one way or the other. I mean, we can listen to them and everything, but I'm very nervous about opening up Pandora's box to concerns that have nothing to do really with architecture or even urban design, but have to do with proximity to my building, etc. And so I'm not keen on opening up Pandora's box, to be perfectly honest.
I would agree with all of you and your summation, Elza.
Okay.
I think it's
good. Planning board to make those decisions.
Okay. Then very good. Then the panel will not do reconsiderations, and we will we'll work on ways to improve notification regarding future DAP meetings.
I would add one caveat, Elza. If it went to the planning board and there really was a concern on their part that they needed more input and wanted to remand it back to us, that would be fine. I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with that at all. But it would be a planning board initiated remanding.
How does the panel feel about that?
I agree with George.
The only downside of that is timing for the project.
Oh, I know. That's
It's
the question how serious the complaint is.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that it would be a rare case in which the planning board would want to do that. But I mean, if the board is concerned enough that it doesn't feel it can make the required findings to approve a project, I mean, that's sort of it's within their prerogative to not vote. And we've had cases in years past where the planning board is not happy with where staff and the applicant have ended up, and they've said, look, go back and work with staff, and we'll see you in a month. So I think the board can already do that for staff. And again, I think it would be rare, but it's easy enough to add into the DAP rules of procedure that if the planning board requests that the DAP reconsider a project that that the DAP would be amenable to that.
I think that's unanimous.
Any opposition to that from the panel members? Rod, I can see your mouth moving, but you're muted.
Rod, you're muting.
No opposition here, sorry.
Okay, very good. Then for the September meeting, because we do not meet in August, for the September meeting, I will add just a brief item, and I'll put it in the memo regarding the planning board remand. Very good.
Sounds good.
Then that, I'm sorry?
Sounds good. Sorry.
Okay, no, very good. So with that, I want to thank everybody for your participation. You all contribute a lot to the quality of design in downtown Bethesda, and we appreciate you volunteering your expertise and your time. And with that, I will, unless anybody else wants to, any of the panel members want to say anything else, we are done, and we will see you in September.
Well, just
In
thank you for your
September.
leadership, Elza.
Be well, Carl.
Yeah.
All right, Carl, it's great to hear you.
Thank you, guys.
Stay well,
Thank
Carl.
you. Thank you.
All right.
Take
Have
care.
a good one. Bye.
See you all in August, September.
Happy summer.